Click the links below to support your favorite comicsgate projects or to support this channel. No, comicsgate is not inclusive to SJWs. They must be excluded. We're not politically correct. We don't have to be. Don't bend over so far trying to open up new markets that we start censoring ourselves. And I realize that was an awkward turn of phrase. Once you start putting rules in place, you start slipping to the left. If you give them an inch and compromise, they will take a mile. You must not give them any leverage. That's why comicsgate may be loose, but that's just more awkward symbology. But it does have core dogma, absolutely no SJWs. Most of them are proud to identify as such. I think they invented the term, and at first they self-identified with it, if I remember right. Comicsgate has grown beyond comics, but it can never be so inclusive as to include them. For some reason, he was my favorite character growing up. I used to love seeing him battle Spider-Man. And then when Spidey, in the movie, they teased him at the end of 1 or 2, I think, as a mecha design. And then I don't remember them ever following up with it. I was disappointed. That looked awesome. Anyway, Peter Smitty today on Twitter said that he absolutely supports Comicsgate. A kid in the comments asked him what Comicsgate was, and people were responding with a lot of flippant answers about Comicsgate being a lovely group of nice people and all that kind of stuff. But I said it was an eccentric, eclectic assemblage of diverse individuals, and we were mostly right of center. It's important to be honest from the start. Don't try to soft pedal that. There are left-wing people, but they're not SJWs. They're probably closer to true liberals. Comicsgate was started with guys like Captain Cummings and Diversity in Comics, both right-of-center military guys. We don't have to hide from being right-of-center. It's not something to be ashamed of. But explain how it started. People were noticing that comics portrayed these same people as the bad guys every time. Male, European, and the protagonists were not. Most normies look at an overrepresentation of a group in a derogatory manner as the definition of prejudice. In short, ask, why are blonde guys the bad guys so often? Blonde men are less than 1% of the global population, so why are they more than 1% of the antagonists? Superheroes, of course, a crying, blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy. Superheroes fight globally. The biggest populations are Chinese, Indian, and Africans, but for some reason they're always the protagonists. If the situation was reversed, people would mention it very loudly on social media. I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine making a comic book. Like, see, you took this, if I got this on my laptop, took a couple of these panels and started swapping races and sexes around, or at least swapping races around, because that would be pretty easy to do, and then posted them on Twitter. Ooh, what would happen? What would happen? But when Captain Cummings and Diversity in Comics mentioned it, the industry lost their minds. They labeled these Comicsgate guys Austrian corporals in the 1930s. The level of panic from the pros was disproportionate to the mild criticism they received. If you want to call someone stupid or a jerk, fine. Those are statements of opinion. Mark Waid was calling people white supremacists. That is a statement of fact that is defamatory. Other people in the industry just repeated that defamation. Nobody bothered to prove it, and nobody even cared to slow down and ask, well, hey, that's an extraordinary claim there. You know, those claims require evidence. Do you have it? Oh, don't be a, I don't know what. They'll just dogpile you if you dare to ask for due process. Mark Waid referred to a bisexual black man with that label because Mark Waid is insane. Being friendly with Alterna is a step into the mainstream. Then people on the outskirts of Comicsgate started working with Dynamite. Then Cecil started. Oh, PMS talk, great. Then Cecil started too, and that was a problem because Cecil is comic. And I don't have a problem with PMS. I'm just saying maybe not in a comic book. I'm just throwing that out there. You know, because what's your market? Is it male or female? You know. Anyway, so that panicked people like Renfamous, who's not in the industry. I guess she's just a puppet with the industry's hand up her. And SJWs who were also working with Dynamite started to spurg out, I guess. And they they pressured Dynamite into dropping Cecil, and now she's pressuring Dynamite to drop Mindy Wheeler because Renfamous knows that she can. She's got the power of 10,000 simps following her. Oh, sweet Jesus. Do they think they're clever when they put stuff like this in comics? You know, that actually looks like a guy in the industry, but he's not in comicsgate. In fact, it looks like someone who's very, very much opposed to comicsgate. I'm not going to mention his name because it's the dick move to do. But doing this kind of stuff is stupid. Big fat guy who's going to be, I'm sure she's going to fight the patriarchy. Anyway, so it's great if Comicsgate goes mainstream, but not if it has to be milquetoast to do it. Comicsgate is earmuffs and FU to SJWs, which is something you can't put on a Walmart shelf. SJWs are elevator music. Comicsgate is rock and roll with the parental advisory sticker. Don't try to make it easy listening. If someone who left Comicsgate because of a conflict with an individual and they decide to come back to Comicsgate, as long as they're not SJWs, they can raise the flag. Come back to us, guys. They didn't fight with Comicsgate. They fought with a few individuals in Comicsgate. We're not all going to get along. That's fine. We just have to behave like adults. Okay, let me get back to this Spider-Girl thing. Okay, this is Spider-Woman 1 and 2. This is the intro to number 2. If you can explain those two things to me. This is number 2, and then we'll go to a number 1, which did 140,000 issues. I'm not sure how that worked. And this is the intro to number 1, which has the same biokinetic, but now this time it's Super Spy. And someone mentioned earlier in the comments that biokinetic, it should have been bioelectric, I think, because you think about biokinetic, it doesn't really make sense. Anyway, this is the diversity, inclusion, compassion, and kindness. Everyone's in a costume, fair enough, except for where they need to prove a point, because everyone's a puppet. Anyway, this is issue 1, and the one thing you notice about this comic is it feels off right from the start because it's ultra violent. This is a little weird. She throws a shield at this guy's neck. Okay, you broke his neck. Puts the guy's head first into a head face in the table. You just killed him. Throws a potted plant at him. Okay, you cracked his skull. You just necked three guys. So the Deadpool, you can't see his face. He's in a mask. Makes some offensive comments about a disabled girl. If you're disabled, you've heard offensive comments your whole life. If you think a little girl is going to break down in tears because some kid says something mean, I don't know what to tell you. So as he falls in the ocean, because of the words he said, because if you say mean words, you can respond with violence, he pulls up his costume so you can see that the offensive kid who later goes on to make sexist comments looks like that. He was in costume, and they make sure he pulls that costume up. Doesn't want to waterboard himself, I guess. But everything they do is for a reason. You start noticing these kind of coincidences, which aren't coinkydinks. Anyway, so he sobs for several panels. Sob like a little crying bitch. And then he says something, what do you know, you're just a girl. He's a child you threw in the ocean because he said something about a disabled girl. He has the right to say whatever the hell he wants without fear of violence. This is the writer. She refers to, all right, my current stance on what's going on with Dynamite. I know people behind the scenes who are trying very hard to get across how damaging CG is to our communities and how painful Nick Caparucci's support of CG organizers' affiliates has been for so many Dynamite creators. Are you a community? Or are you in industry? And this was probably, I think it was a backer tracker to get like 35K. Like I said, people like a lot of people in Comicsgate, but people love Cecil and Diversity in Comics Myers. There's a whole different level of loyalty and support to these two guys. I think it was at $10,000 when they canceled it, which I think is might be the beginning of the end for Dynamite. Because here's the thing with Dynamite. They, let me get to this. They got to, I don't think they know who their fan base is, which is, like a part of any business. Know who your fans are. Because if you have to make a hard decision, if there are all things being equal, I mean, there's no principles involved. You want to make it on the side that is economically advantageous to you. And as for Dynamite, you look at the covers they sell. Big boobed vampire girls and big boobed Elviras and big boob. You get the theme with what they're selling. Are those people more likely to associate with comicsgate or with the SJWs? I don't know. I don't know Dynamite's marketing. I'm sure they made a very careful, researched decision and didn't just panic and blindly cancel Cecil, who, they looked at his channel and think, oh, he's only got 10,000 followers. Not such a big deal. We'll find out. Hey, we'll find out. Maybe it'll work. Okay, so 2 women fighting, and then this is issue 2, and she goes on to beat the hell out of several guys who look like this, because that's what your terrorist typically looks like. Again, my favorite character. Again, looks like that. So the 2 women have to beat him up, and then she pukes in his face. And this was the thing with, I know I'm kind of grinding an axe with feminism, but the puke in face, it's the second time she pukes in the comics. The first comic she lays down in her own vomit, which is a little bit, stomach churning. And then they play this up for laughs, and it's like, Spider-Man wasn't played up for laughs. He was a serious character going through serious issues. And you've got this character just like fighting the patriarchy and doing these social justice stuff, like over the top in the first issue, at least over the top, and in the second issue too, because the characters she's fighting all look the same. And then you play this getting sick, this scatological humor, this gross out humor for laughs. That's not what the character is supposed to be. Hey, if it sells and you like it, go for it. All right, you did something right there. Congratulations. Then she beats the hell out of a 160-pound soy boy who's trying to save his daughter's life. I mean, the storyline doesn't make sense. He infects her with a parasite so he can cure his daughter, something like that. But my problem is in the character motivation. These 2 scenes are enough to kind of kill the thing for me, which I know sounds like kind of nutty. But once the character goes outside of what a hero should be, this guy, she's superpowered. He's completely defenseless. He has no powers, skills. He's just a 160-pound executive. Slams him face down, throws him up against the glass. He's sobbing. He's sobbing trying to save his daughter, blonde, blue-eyed, because, I mean, imagine if you change his color to Arab, dark hair, dark-eyed. How well do you think that'd go over on Twitter? He uses basically an act of terrorism to save his daughter's life, so it's kind of mixed morally, but the SJWs would not be cool with it. Anyway, so the character, our hero, hangs him outside a window, and you're like, oh, well, she's more of a Deadpool character. All right, maybe, but needless violence and torture against a young boy in the first comic, and then this guy who's trying to save his daughter, it's like the character motivation is getting very, very gray zoned here. So these 2 things took me out of it immediately. And, if this is your favorite character, I know you're probably going to get upset, but it just doesn't make sense to me. And this is what SJWs do. They put characters down to build up their character because they don't know how to build a character. You just build everyone up. You build everyone up. Everyone in comics is kind of physically drawn to heroic proportions. Even the bystanders are like way more muscular than normal. But everyone is elevated to these higher standards. I mean, unattainable standards of heroism and altruism and whatever. But you've got this guy just crying the whole comic. In the first comic, you had the little boy crying the whole comic. And they both look the same. And every bad guy looks the same. Oh, PMS, that's fabulous. That's just what I need to hear. And then you've got this guy. I won't say it. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, guys. I'll see you all next episode.